Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Listen, there's only a small group of people that ever really see what's coming. Always. The dot-com bubble, the gold rush. It's always, the bigger groups always come in afterwards. There's a small bit of explorers and visionaries that see what is coming. And yeah, they're willing to work hard. They're willing to hang in there. And then they discover gold. Only after they discover gold does everybody come in. Only after they see the prices going up does everybody else usually come in. That's how it works. Always, it's always that way. Even with Bitcoin, it was the same thing. And we see this pattern repeating over and over again. A lot of individuals, they talk about patterns, but they don't see the historical patterns, the human patterns. There's a pattern to humanity. Ripple ties everything together. Everything. That's why when they say, you know, and they kind of say it in a joking sort of way, we'd like to move all the money. There's a lot of seriousness. There's two sides. There's an opposite side to every shield. And they really mean that. They say it in a joking way, but at the same time, they're like, yeah, that's the goal. They could definitely tie everything together. They're going to have a lot of power. They began, I said this a long time ago, they began just like how the IMF began. The SDR has a similar beginning to how XRP is. But here's the difference. See, the IMF is not neutral. They're not neutral. The Fed is not neutral. They can't tie the whole world together. You see what Ripple can do? Ripple can bring everything together, all those currencies together, trading with each other with max liquidity. It can bring all those things together without stepping on anybody's toes. And Ripple can take a back seat and just let it all flow. It's almost all of it is automated. All they have to do is continue to update the systems. $25 XRP is nothing for XRP. In the long term, in my humble opinion, and you don't have to agree. I'm not telling you to agree. $25 for XRP is nothing. That's nothing. When there's going to be quadrillions flowing, yes, quadrillions. That's the potentiality. It's not a guarantee, but that's the potential. That's what they're setting up. We're looking at the setup. We got to use the data that we have in front of us. You see the corridors they're setting up in Africa. That's not for no reason at all, just for P2P. No, B2B, P2P, trillions. Tokenization, moving gold, moving silver, traceability, they're going to do it all. Taking money from the music industry, taking money from the gaming industry, real estate, trillions upon trillions. You're telling me $25? Come on now. When there's consistent volume, once the world settles down, it always settles sooner or later. We just don't know when. We just don't know when. But it always settles. They're going to chop off a huge piece of crypto. They've been doing it. And what will be left will be only the utility coins. I mean, only the essential ones. It's going to be, this is going to be a brutal fight to see who survives. It has been already. There's more to come. That's the thing people are not getting. There's more to come. The crashing of multiple economies is on the table. While everybody's worried and distracted about other things, the dollar, they're de-dollarizing right now. That paycheck people are getting, what's it going to be worth in a year or two if the world is dumping dollars, if they stop trading oil in dollars, if the rest of the world says no more, and they're trading in yuan or something else, then there's always a flip side to every shield, right? So then you have that, but then you also have to keep in mind, people are going to retreat to something. They're going to retreat to something. And they're going to begin, when things get bad enough, they're going to think about what has liquidity, because not everything that you can retreat to, traditional assets and even non-traditional assets, they're not always liquid, and you can lose massive money. They're going to think, what's stable? Wouldn't it be wise if you're a builder on XRP or Ripple to have always had a stabilizing mechanism? So now you can stabilize that at a high price. I told you before, they can vote. They voted to bring the requirement down to have an XRP account or wallet, whatever you call it. they can vote to bring it up. And if they vote to bring it up, it'd be very stable, and they have a liquidity low. Not even just now, in the future, when all those banks flood Ripple with their money, and that's one part of the power. When all those banks shake hands with Ripple or Volante or whoever's building on XRPL, and they give them that trust, and governments give them that trust in the future and give them that head nod to say, go ahead, unleash. When that happens, they will have liquidity, the likes of which you have never seen. That's why the video the other day was titled Liquidity is Everything. Liquidity is everything. The banks don't have it. If you don't have liquidity, you're finished. If you're open to bank runs, you're finished. Bank runs can be triggered by anything. It could be triggered just by people writing articles. There's no way I trust my value with something that could be rendered illiquid and my value is locked up in there. And now you see how easy it is for bank runs to happen on banks, bank runs to happen on stable coins. Stable coins are far from stable. But a wise individual, and you have to know that they're thinking about this. They've thought about this. Stable coins were an experiment. It is an experiment. And I said this like a year ago. Didn't I say we were going to get good data from all of this? And we've been getting good data. What we discovered is that there needs to be something that has a stabilizing mechanism and enough liquidity to move a world reserve currency, whether it's XRP outright or something else that's a world reserve currency that moves across the XRPL. That's definitely possible on the XRPL to always have that be in flow. You know, really, what would be logical is in the future, if there is no world reserve currency, everything just flows across the XRPL. One goes into the other, right? Which would make sense with a multipolar world where all of these different world powers try to keep each other balanced. What would it do to the price of XRP to do that? They have corridors in Europe, corridors in Africa, corridors in Mexico, corridors in all types of Latin American countries where other financial institutions don't have corridors. Southeast Asia, Japan. People are not seeing what's going on. Hey, and you can't force them either. I'm just sharing my thoughts as I'm reading this. But the rest of the world is ready to take off. They're ready to take off. I'm reading this article here, and Ripple has been deep in Mexico for quite some time. You see all the places Ripple is really building up and building out, more than just building infrastructures, more than that. They're building good relationships. Those places have been doing well. A lot of them have been joining the BRICS nations. If the BRICS nations ever decided we're gonna pull the trigger and come together, not use dollars, we're going to trade with commodity backed assets, that's a lot of value flowing. A lot of value flowing. We've seen entities that are even allied with the West say, wait a minute, you know, we still have to do business with these other people over here, these other countries over here. So even they find it either necessary or too delicious. They can't get out of doing business with the BRICS nations. That money is going to flow, trillions, quadrillions, traceability, wallets, payroll. XRP $25 is not far-fetched, in my humble opinion. It's not far-fetched. I mean, people can believe what they want. I'm just speaking for myself. I don't speak for anyone else. Of course, you want to get past $3, $5, $5, $8, but yes, but we can think about other things as well. We don't have to limit ourselves. Right? But read this little tidbit here. It says the Central Reserve Bank of Peru has published a paper that is said will be the first in a series to examine the need, design, and timing of a Peruvian central bank digital currency. Peru is getting ready to roll out their CBDC, or preparing. So the status quo of competing payment systems in Peru is untenable, the CBRP wrote. But the introduction of a CBDC combined with new policies to improve the access and interoperability of existing systems. That's another thing. No one has the interoperability that the XRPL has, and at the same time is respected like the XRPL, also has the liquidity. They have it all. XRP has it all. They have the respect of governments everywhere, everywhere. This is why they're at the forefront. At the forefront of big money. I believe that in the future, they stand a great chance of connecting all of these CBDCs together. I do. I'm watching what's going on. With or without a positive outcome to this case, it doesn't even make a difference at this point. If they move outside of the US, I expect Ripple to be even more aggressive, actually, because they have something to prove. They have something to prove. And that US, they wouldn't worry about the US if they had to move outside of the US, because the US is in a bad position. They're in a terrible position. They're staring down the barrel of hyperinflation. You know, we've been covering it for quite some time. I don't know if anybody's watched the recent videos or not, but rather, I don't know who has, but they had to print more money as a reason, $400 billion. It set them back on their target to bring inflation down. And then they can't really raise the interest rates the way that they should, because then people are going to lose their jobs. So you had to print more money, undo your work that you did when you were trying to bring down inflation. If you bring the interest rates up anymore, people are going to lose their jobs, and you're going to crush the smaller banks and businesses, right? The real estate market this is not looking great in the future. Who knows what's going to happen, but I'm just telling you what I'm reading from articles. I cover them in the videos recently. Those 40-minute videos, that's like 16 different articles, 12 different articles, 8 different articles at different times. Each chapter is a different article. I covered it in there with the real estate, commercial real estate. That was in the last video. And so if Ripple had to leave the US, I don't see them worried about the US. It's a sinking ship, in my humble. This is what it is right now, unless they flip the switch. They haven't done it yet, unless they flip the switch. And it doesn't look like they're doing it right now. So with a positive outcome to that case, sure, Ripple would just dominate the United States, in my humble opinion. They would dominate, especially because the small banks would back them. The small banks are desperate. They need a lifeline. Ripple is it. They can provide liquidity, and they can provide digital assets, tokenization, everything, wallets, all of that the small banks need, and Ripple can do it with ease. They would go on a feeding frenzy. That's why I say it all the time. $20 to $25 XRP, that's nothing for XRP. If XRP reaches its potential, that's nothing. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. This is my humble opinion. It's my humble opinion, right? So you have this little bit here that they're doing in Mexico, right? They've been working with Bitso for quite some time. Remember, they were even at one time, I think they stopped that project, but I think that they were working on wallets for, not wallets, my apologies, but they were working on infrastructure for payroll in Mexico, right? Payroll, offline QR code payments, all of these different things. You think those relationships went away? Even when projects shut down. There's a reason that they shut down, but those relationships, when you do good business, they still exist. How many partnerships do you believe Ripple probably has that they're not saying anything about? Because they're waiting. Just like everybody else. Korea is waiting on a positive outcome for Ripple. SBI is waiting on a positive outcome for Ripple. SBI said a lot of other businesses are waiting on a positive outcome to the Ripple versus SEC case. How many more? So Ripple is waiting also. That would be logical. They're sitting on announcements. Do you really believe that what they've announced so far is Ripple's big announcements? Absolutely not. I think that when they make their big announcements, I'll put Stellar in there also. I think a lot of these companies, Bitcoin companies, are sitting on big announcements because I've heard certain things. And yet those things haven't manifested. And I refuse to believe that the companies are unsatisfied with the product. No, they're sitting on huge announcements, waiting. And when they make those announcements, you're going to see, not guarantee, but when they make those announcements, if ever they do, you're going to see that price skyrocket. Hey, make up your own mind. It's just my humble opinion. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I would greatly appreciate it if you click that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. So until next time, let's get to the money.